Hey, it's Brendan from Comic Con. This is Happy Hour, the Good Grief Edition. The gang and I, we were sitting around after one of the Happy Hour recordings we did, and we had this idea. We were talking about just bonkers shows that we've seen now that when we were young, we thought were these amazing, wholesome things. And then as we kind of examine them from a modern lens and from, being an adult looking back on it, just how bonkers some of these things are and just how bizarre some of the things are. So we're going to talk about some of the Peanut specials. Got with me today, we've got Anton Kromoff, and for the first time on camera, we've got producer Erik. He's also the editor-in-chief of Comic Con. But Erik, you're on camera. What's up, man?
Yeah, no, actually on camera for once. Listeners of Trade Parsley might recognize my voice, but yes, this is my face. This is my terrifying visage. And
What are you, a Lovecraftian creature? The
yes,
terrifying.
I am an elder horror. That's a little known fact about me.
Your space does look a little non-Euclid to me, so I mean, it could totally be a thing. Now that Brendan said how bizarre, I have that OMC song stuck in my head. I can't do too much of it because copyright purposes, but it's like the how bizarre song.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay. Right on. Okay, so I know the song, but I didn't recognize it from the part you were singing, and I wasn't.
I can't sing. What do I look like, Teddy Ruxpin? There's no cassette place here to stick in me and make me pop out.
Did you with the Teddy Ruxpin? Did you ever put like Metallica in there? Because I did.
I wasn't
because the lips just move. The lips just move to the sound reaction, so you could totally play heavy metal and Teddy Ruxpin and sit there and sing it. All right. Anyway, we digress. The point of this show is we are going to talk about two Peanut specials today. We're going to talk about the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and we're going to talk about Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. And the thing is, there were 46 movies and TV specials that were made in conjunction with, Charles Schulz and his, Peanuts. Anyway, yeah. So Charles Schulz was involved with the making of most of these. He didn't write all of them. You can tell which ones he wrote and which ones he didn't, because the ones he didn't get really weird. But we're going to talk about the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, which everybody remembers fondly. And we're going to talk about Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, which nobody seems to remember. So first off, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. What are some memories you guys have of this short film?
Well, here's the thing. I think we need to let the audience in on into the vibe of what is happening here, which is none of us have watched these in a very long time. So everything we're relaying right now is just what we remember and could be wholly incorrect. And what we're going to do for you, our beautiful listeners, is after we kind of go through what we remember, we're going to bop off and watch these things, and then we'll come back and discuss what actually happened. So if we start telling you a story of what we think it was, and you're like, that's not it at all, yeah, it probably isn't, because we don't have that great of memory. So
did I forget to mention that part?
A little bit. The lead.
The primary premises of this of the Good Grief edition is
how many takes did we take before I introduce
wait,
this
10 seconds of silence. Hold on.
So
Erik's here with us on camera.
So I'm going to admit that I have no memory of this thing at all. I mean, to the point where I have to ask, how late in the run did this come into existence? Because
which one?
The Thanksgiving thing. Because to me, it feels like it's the Great Pumpkin, and then Charlie Brown Christmas special, and then that's
Charlie Brown Thanksgiving is the 10th. Is the 10th primetime animated television special based on the popular comic strip Peanuts by Charles M. Schulz. It was originally aired on CBS Network on November 20th, 1973. So at this point, Charles Schulz was still involved. He had still conceptualized it. He had still written it. And it was directed by Bill Melendez and Phil Roman, who actually did a bunch of these as the directors. So at this point, it's still Charlie Brown, or it's still Charles Schulz. And you can tell because it's still got a little bit of the religious element in it. They say prayer before they eat, that kind of stuff. With the Charlie Brown Christmas, the whole thing is Linus all of a sudden just goes, and let me tell you all about Jesus. It's still got that little element in it, and the characters are very true to making sense to what they did in the Peanuts cartoon.
Okay.
It diverged. I mean, it very wildly goes away from that with some of these. But okay, so Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. A lot of times when I'm watching these specials, I'm like, where in the hell are the parents? Because sometimes you can hear them in the background doing them wah, 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 but they just left the kids. All the kids in the entire city are basically just left alone, and their parents go out of town. and then they have to scrap together a Thanksgiving meal. So also apparently the parents left them no food because they made toast and jelly beans, pretzels, and popcorn for
I
dinner,
love that
which
you
is very
remember this. I have no. I thought there was like a whole. See, my recollection of the meal was like Snoopy makes it, right?
Mhm.
Like Snoopy makes the meal in his doghouse because doesn't he? And again, it's gonna all be like false memories, but I feel like
Snoopy does make the meal.
he and Wishbone or Woodstock break the wishbone,
Mhm.
and I feel like at one point, they have there's like an argument between having like two separate Thanksgiving meals, and
Right, because the parents want them to come later to the Thanksgiving meal at grandma's house, I think it is.
there's like an
But
actual Thanksgiving
but
meal that the kids all want to do
Peppermint
something.
Patty was just like, well, hey, all the kids are home alone, so let's have Thanksgiving. And then Charlie Brown's doing the thing where he's going to have a meal with his friends, and then he's going to have a meal with his family. It would really just play like an episode of Friends because Joey wants to go to the stripper party and Monica wants to host at her house and everybody's got other stuff. Anyway, so I have a funny story about this because I lived in Santa Rosa and Charles Schultz moved to Santa Rosa and he spent a lot of his time there, a lot of years until he passed away. A local radio station, I think it was the Fox, was running a promotion like the day before Thanksgiving. And it was whoever could call in and say what the 4 things were that the kids ate for Thanksgiving dinner, they would win a prize. So my buddy Steve, like all these people are calling in, they're getting 3 of the things, they're not getting the 4th thing. My buddy Steve gets the idea. He's like, I'm going to look up Charles Schultz and see if he can answer this question for me. So he literally goes to the phone book. Charles Schultz is listed. Goes to the phone book, finds Charles M. Schultz, calls the number. A lady picks up and says, hello. And Steve, he's a teenager. He's trying to win a radio contest or whatever. He's like, is Charles available? And she goes, oh, he's just napping. Let me go and wake him up. And Steve's just like, no, no way. Just don't, please. And she's like, no, it's no trouble. She wakes up Charles Schultz. Charles Schultz comes to the phone the day before Thanksgiving. He's taking a nap. Some teenager is calling out of the blue that he has no idea who it is. And he says, what are the things the kids ate? And Charles Schultz is like, well, what are the things people are guessing? And I think it was like they got 3 of them. So he says, pretzels, toast, and popcorn. And Charles Schultz goes, jelly beans. And my friend Steve is just like, thank you so much, sir. Like, thank you for, so he calls, they end the call. He calls back the radio station. He's correct. He's the first one out of everybody to get it. And the prize that he won was 1 free movie rental at a little mom and pop VHS store. And it had to be used that night. He had like 2 hours to get down to the video store to use his prize to watch a movie on Thanksgiving.
That's so rad though, because he like talked to Charles Schultz for the most random friggin' reason. Like that's a good story, man.
Well, and the thing is, he was really involved. Go ahead.
And that Schultz was just kind of ready, like, why, yes, young man, I can answer this question for you, no problem.
100%. And this is way before internet.
You put on an Eric is like one of my absolute favorites because it does feel like very much like young man, like like he's like a wizzled old sage that will come to the phone and rescue anyone who calls him.
A grizzled old sage that knows the answer: jelly beans.
Right? I got a free movie rental out of it. I mean, that was, I'm guessing the 80s, like 85, 86, somewhere in there.
He rented Pumpkinhead, didn't he?
That was what I was thinking.
I'll ask him. I had to ask permission to tell the story because it's a true story and I didn't want him to get upset. So I did ask him. I'll get the answer before we do the second part of this. Okay, so Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, that's it. The kids are home alone. They've got to make a meal. Some bonkers story about how they're going to join their parents later, but like half of them don't have parents or something. I've never heard anything about like Peppermint Patty's parents or
well, what do you
Peppermint Patty's
are you reading something, Brendan, about it, or are you?
The only thing that I looked up was the title,
right,
the director, the writer, and the year, and I purposely ignored the whole rest of the page.
Okay, so you speak with such authority. I was like, please don't be telling us what it's about because now I want to I don't remember half of it. I feel like there was a cold open, right? Because I feel like all of them have a cold open of some sort. So there was like a cold open with a football. I do remember that. But
the football. It's got to be in there. It's got to be in there. If it's not in there, that's a missed opportunity.
And I don't know if I'm remembering it from just Hallmark store decorations or if it actually happened. But I feel like the kids were all in the little buckles on their hats, pilgrim outfits at some point.
The cover had that. I don't know if they ever wore that in the show.
I don't know.
But on the cover, they were sitting around and they were all dressed like pilgrims and indigenous people. We're not gonna
No, we're not going down that road. Eric, do you remember anything about it, Eric, or is it just a blank?
I mean, I mean, to the point where I assumed that this special like was produced much later, because this would have aired in like my prime, broadcast television watching years.
They played it every year in the 80s and early 90s.
Like, I have no recollection of this whatsoever. It is so crazy to know that the special is as old as it is, because it just feels like I have no memory of, and I have a ridiculous amount of memory for television. Like, the joke over on my podcast is I watched an appalling amount of television as a child.
And what is that podcast? Can we plug it?
It's called Tread Perilously, treadperilously.com.
It's good stuff, people. You should check it out once you finish listening to us babble about.
No, he really does have like an encyclopedic knowledge of television, which surprised me that you don't remember this show at all.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like not even a memory of like a commercial of this being teased. It was like on
ABC or NBC or something like that every year.
See,
and it was
I remember them because I would have been young when it came out, like young enough that like I could have seen it and probably understood it. But what I remember is like in my early teens, they played it on the same channel that Dr. Madblood came on. And so like it was like a half an hour block that ate away from whatever fun horror movie they were doing. So it was like, Mecha Godzilla or, like The Blob. And you miss like the first half of it because they just like slapped on it's time for a holiday special, and then be like a car commercial with the snow and then the M&M stuff, but then they would show the Thanksgiving peanuts. But I can't for the life of me remember the whole plot of the damn thing.
Well, and see, the thing is that like my kids now get an entire week off of school for Thanksgiving. We only got the day before. So what it was is basically my grandma was off in the kitchen cooking, and we were plopped in front of the TV. We watched the Thanksgiving parade. Oh wait, the parade was on Thanksgiving Day. Yeah. We watched the Snoopy special. We watched like whatever cartoons or whatever were on, and then we were watching like, and I'm going to date myself here, but we were watching like Yan Can Cook and Lawrence Welk and stuff for the entire day because my grandparents didn't know what to do with us when we were off of school.
I watched Yan Can Cook like day before yesterday.
I saw Yan.
No, in real life
at a hospital here. Yeah,
that's
he was doing. It was. He's got a line of hospital food, which is the most random thing.
Okay.
But a hospital here in town bought or licensed his line or whatever. He came in to promote it, and there were like 20 people in the room. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. I was the most excited out of anybody in the room. I was nerding out like crazy.
Yeah.
But he took a plate and he sharpened his knife on the back of the plate. The stone part of the plate.
Yeah.
Sharpened his cleaver on that. He's got one knife that he uses in the kitchen, just a cleaver. And then he proceeded, while he's looking out at us and talking, to separate and debone an entire chicken in about 30 seconds.
Of course. Did he make the chicken dance first? Like, did he dance it around? Because he used to do
without even looking at the chicken. Awesome. Though I was like so impressed that everybody else was like, okay, so do we go back to work now or what? Like, yeah. Okay. The other special we're going to talk about, and I do not blame you guys at all if you've never heard of this one. But I remember it, and I swear to God, I've been telling this story forever, and I could never find it on streaming. I could never find a physical copy of it, and everybody thought I was just lying and just full of shit because it is the most bonkers peanut special that has ever been made. It's called Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. The kids go off camping, and they meet up with a group of kids from another camp. So I guess camps back in the 70s were really close together, maybe. But they meet up with these other kids from another camp, and they're like the anti-Peanuts gang. Like, instead of having a nice dog, they have a mean cat. Like, they're bullies instead of being like nice kids or whatever. And these kids literally for the entire special try to murder and maim the Peanuts gang for an hour. And they go on this river race. And during this river race, they're all in teams that they picked in boats that they built, which, where are the parents? Like, there's no safety regulation at all. There's no anything. And they're literally trying to kill the Peanuts gang for the entire time, trying to drown them, trying to explode them. They go through a mining section where there's dynamite blasting and stuff. And the winner of the race ends up being Snoopy on an inner tube with Woodstock. And the bad kids don't die. The Peanuts gang survives or whatever, but Snoopy wins it. And that's like the gist of the entire special.
Okay. So I don't remember a lot about this one. I remember the cat is like a fat version of Azrael, right? From
from the
Smurfs. I remember that. And this could be totally wrong. I could be totally out of pocket here. but I really was excited we were talking about this one. I feel like the end of this movie is like the Peanuts version of Easy Rider. Like, I think the end of this movie, they're on like tricked out, tall handlebarred, like old school motorcycles. Like all the kids are riding like adult motorcycles at the end of this one.
No, it was at the beginning when they were on the way to camp. The gang was all on a bus, but Snoopy and Woodstock were on a Easy Rider, and it's 100% Easy Rider. All of the decals and stuff on the helmet and the fringe jacket leather and all that stuff, everything is Easy Rider. And then Charlie Brown gets left behind at a stop that they make to get candy or something like that. And then he has to ride on the back of Snoopy's motorcycle, and he almost dies of fright because Snoopy is a wild man on a motorcycle. That is part of it, and I 100% forgot about it till you just mentioned that.
That's the big thing I remember is like there's like snow at one point, and there's like a log flume. Because the first time I saw a log flume in an amusement park, because we have Busch Gardens amusement park like 45 minutes from where I live, which is really weird to me because it's 45 minutes from where I live, and it's kind of it's like I've never been to Disney. It's no Disney.
It is no Disney.
It's no Disney, but they're like a bunch of people like come here for vacation, and they're like, we're at Busch Gardens, and I'm like, I'm sorry, okay. But they get like really excited when they come to this place.
Yeah, but Busch Gardens, we're not looking for a sponsorship, I guess.
Yeah,
from those folks.
It's totally cool. But anyways,
not a position for that anymore, right?
No, not really.
Is it Anheuser-Busch that runs those gardens?
No, it's InBev. InBev owns.
Oh, okay.
I think InBev bought Anheuser-Busch way long ago, before Man Hunted Mammoth with Pointy Stick. I actually worked at the park and in their fest house. I don't even want to get into it, but anyways, when I was a little kid, they had a flume ride that I'm sure they probably still do. Well, actually, it might not. I think they've taken out water rides, but when I saw it in real life, I equated it to the Peanuts thing and got really excited. And then realizing that you had to go up to the top of a thing and then drop down, I was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. I don't do ups. I'm not an ups person. I don't do ups very well. Roller coasters, tall buildings, hills. I'm a downs person. I don't do ups. So that was me. Which stairs? No, I don't like stairs. Elevators with that glass on the front of it, airplanes, helicopters.
All right, so Erik, do you remember anything at all from this film, or is this all news to you?
Like the bike. Until Anton brought up the bike, I'd forgotten about that. But that's a clear image to prove that I watched an appalling amount of television as a child. My abiding memory of the special or movie isn't the movie itself. It's Channel 13 used to run the Charlie Brown movies all the time. Channel 13, KCOP in Los Angeles, is a commercial for it, right? That probably had that probably a moment with the bike. Definitely the moment when they almost go over the falls. And
Easy Rider was a big thing at the time, so they were definitely trying to tie in the parents with that part of it. It had nothing to do. None of the kids knew what the hell that was, because Easy Rider, that was an R-rated film with like guns and boobs and all kinds of stuff in it.
Drugs
right,
and
definitely not for kids. Yeah.
And
maybe one or two other moments from the movie, but you know, this thing would air, or this commercial would air during Masters of the Universe or Robotech, or you know, all the stuff that Channel 13, all the cartoons that Channel 13 ran, and it would inevitably end up airing on Saturdays right after You're the Hunter from the Future.
Okay.
So that's my memory of it is it was the movie that would come on after the really weird fantasy movie.
Nice. All right, so I think we're about done with this, but it's not a happy hour without at least one drink. So I made a drink. I know we said we weren't going to do it for this, but my wife actually looked this up and she thought it sounded interesting. It's called the peanut butter and jelly, because peanuts, right? And peanut butter and jelly is like a whimsical, like childhood thing. So it's 2 ounces of peanut butter whiskey and an ounce of unsweetened cranberry juice shaken up in a shaker with ice and then poured into a straight up glass. Wait, it's got a name, right? I don't know.
I was just waiting to shake it up in a child's toy. Like, what do you shake it up in? It could be anything.
Well, okay. So, and then I made a teeny tiny little peanut butter jelly sandwich there to garnish it with. So that's my peanut butter and jelly.
That's fun.
Slancha. It reasonably tastes like peanut butter and jelly. I was not too hopeful on that. because cranberry juice is not strawberry flavored, but it's just sweet enough and just fruity enough to kind of balance the peanuts and in the disgusting Screwball whiskey, and it makes Screwball whiskey drinkable. So cranberry juice and Screwball is actually a drink now.
Well, there you go.
That's fun. So
Nice.
we're gonna go now, and we'll all go off, and through the magic of editing and Erik's extra dimensional powers of bending time and space and pixels, when we return after this brief message from us, we will have watched these movies, and we'll talk about what actually happened, and see how wrong or right we were, and that'll be good times. I'm probably also going to go find Yor now, because I had completely forgotten that movie. And that's like a spiritual successor to Milius's Conan. That's like one of the old school good sword and sorcery flicks, man. Like I gotta go find that one. That's a good one. So,
all right, so we're gonna disappear. We'll come back in a few minutes your time. It's gonna be like a week our time, but we'll see you in just a moment here.
Peppermint Patty's the worst.
100%. The
I don't think I realized.
I didn't either. It's in my notes.
She's awful.
She's horrible.
Okay, wait. Which video are we starting with first? Because there are examples in both videos.
Yes.
Yeah, she's real bad. Dude.
Both things.
Let's start with
okay.
this.
So
let's start with things.
So it's been about a week, and we went off. We watched the videos. We've come back. Peppermint Patty is the worst for a lot of reasons. Are we starting with the Thanksgiving video?
Let's start with Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, one of the things that I noticed actually across both videos is there is a theme of absent and incompetent adults. They just leave the kids to do whatever the hell they're going to do. In both videos, this happens. And then there's no supervision or anything. And there's these like threats of like, oh my God, we're not going to get there on time. What's going to happen? And it's like, but they didn't give you the tools to get there on time. Like they left with the car. You can't drive. Like what?
Yeah.
You're just leaving children completely unsupervised to hang out with each other, like randomly show up on the other side of town to each other's houses. Right. Yeah. And like just do what the hell ever, I did not remember the Thanksgiving episode being that short. Like if you watch it, if you take out, there is a chunk in the middle that is like 9 minutes long. That's not a joke. There's a 9-minute chunk in the middle of the Thanksgiving episode that is all music. And it's like a weird vignette of Woodstock and Snoopy just dicking around. The rest of it is like 20 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. And
so that's one of the.
My note for the middle section is I wonder if Schultz used the Marvel method for that.
Yes.
Just let Bill Melendez storyboard.
Now hang on. Schultz, I don't believe was writing the screenplays for all of these. I think he started, but there was a point where he was just like, here's the idea, guys. And that's the thing is like, they had to stretch these into 45 minutes to make up for commercials or whatever, 40 minutes, whatever it runs for an hour slot. I believe that these animators was just like, well, Snoopy and Woodstock are friends. Let's just have them, screw around for half an hour. Like, and that's the thing is they're like,
Marvel method.
Yeah,
it has got to be the Marvel method. Yeah.
Well, and there's dangling plot lines all over the place, and that happens a lot in the second movie we're going to talk about, and that happens a lot in these specials where they just start something and you're like, well, this is interesting, where this is going to go, and then they never talk about it again, and you're like, okay, and it's like the Snoopy and Woodstock just playing or whatever. It's like, what happened to the bear? What happened to this? Like how did this resolve? Because at the end, everybody's just happy and dancing and doing the thing.
So even with like the expanded credits, which feel like randomly slower than the VHS credits that I remember, and again, we're running back through the annals of time, as it were. I
believe that's pronounced annals, but go ahead with annals.
The annals of time.
It is
we're in the annals of time now. But like on because Thanksgiving, right? You guys can go watch it now. We are not sponsored. Check out the Monarch Show while you're there. Because Apple Plus has the Thanksgiving Charlie Brown special on it. Like you can go watch it right now.
They have all of them, right?
No, they don't have all of them, but they have that one.
I mean, it turns out because I have Paramount Plus, all the movies are on Paramount Plus because I guess they were Paramount productions to begin with, which was also kind of a surprise to learn.
But that Thanksgiving movie is 25 minutes long in toto from beginning to end of credit. And the credits are a good, like 10 minutes.
But the credit scene is the best part for me because I love that they're scrapping together like, oh shit, what are we going to make? Let's make toast and jelly beans and whatever. And Snoopy's got a 30-pound turkey in his doghouse the whole time with all the trimmings and stuff just for him in Woodstock. Like, good. Those kids are gone. Now we eat.
That movie was unhinged. But I very much thought Marvel Method in the middle because that vignette is like, why are we here? What are we doing? We're playing with a bike, and there's like the musical. There's like do 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 do. Like it's so wacky.
No, and so that's the thing. That's the thing that I was talking about, and that's what kind of spurred this conversation. Is like in your mind, you have one idea of what it is because nostalgia wants to pull it all together. But you were a dumb kid watching this thing, and you had no idea that this stuff was just so off the wall and bizarre. One of the things that I want to mention too is one of the things that happens because I feel like some of the animation goes real cheap, and some of the animation they spend a lot more time on. One of the things that has always bugged me, even as a kid, I'm very detail oriented. It's like Sundays are on the table, then the Sundays are gone, and then the Sundays are back, and then the Sundays are gone. It's the same thing as in a bar when they're smoking a cigarette and the whole cigarette, half a cigarette, whole cigarette, three-quarter cigarette, whole cigarette, cigarette butt. It's the same thing. It's like, where did the Sundays go? Where are they?
Well, yeah, and those kids can play with like glassware and like, I mean, a toaster makes sense, right? But like they're busting out all sorts of crap and setting up a folding table and having a whole fake Thanksgiving smorgasbord. And like Chuck's grandma was real chill when she was just like, I don't give a shit who these children are. Let them
bring them,
bring everybody.
But you got to remember too, the concept for this was made in like the 60s, right? You used to have random ass kids show up at your house and sit at the table. That was just what people did.
That could have been a really rad childhood. I did not experience any of that. Granted, I was far from a child from the 60s. But
my wife's family was like that. It was just like they had 5 kids and all of the kids' friends were always welcome. So you'd sit down, you'd never know. There'd be 15 people at the table. Half of them you don't know the names of.
That's so rad. I love that, man. That's fun and like heartwarming. And I think that was my biggest takeaway from the Thanksgiving thing was like, man, that's really fun. That and the writers were not economical at all. It was like, and this girl named Peppermint Patty, and this other girl named Marcy, and this boy, and you're like, named Franklin, and you're like, okay.
Oh, Franklin's important though. Franklin is super duper important.
We're like fitting. We're not just saying, hey, these
Charles
Schultz are coming over. Let me name these 3 kids. It was like we're going to Schultz each one individually.
Broke the color barrier with comics by introducing Franklin.
Franklin's
Franklin's a big deal. Franklin's a big deal.
The Thanksgiving blast.
Of the 2 that we just watched, that is the most normal. That is the one that, like, it's got a plot line. You could follow it through. There's a couple little weird things about it. But looking back on it, it's not as good as you thought it was when you were a kid. But it still kind of holds up as like, this is a story. It's got a beginning, a middle, and end. Things happen. Besides the point of like the parents being gone, it's not that out the norm. I still love this film.
I mean, the thing about the parents being gone, I feel like that's not something you sense until you're a parent or of parent age, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're a kid, it doesn't read weird to you that the parents are missing.
Well, it plays much better in 3 panels than it does in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because in 3 panels, there's all these little moments where my kids, they have little adventures and stuff where we're not around or whatever, inside the house, in the backyard, whatever. They have little adventures on their own. But like when you try and sit there and make it a whole movie that's supposed to take place over the course of a day, during an entire day, where are the parents?
It harkened to me very much. I'm a big Winnie the Pooh fan. Like I love Winnie the Pooh. He makes me smile, makes me happy. And it very much felt like, Christopher Robin goes off to the 100-acre wood and was like kicking it with all his little make-believe friends, Winnie the Pooh and Rabbit and Owl and all of them. Like it to me felt very much like this was a contained adventure that like may or may not have been real. Like Charlie Brown may have a concussion from missing that football at the beginning where...
Oh, so you're talking about an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, like, I mean, how reliable is good old Chuck? What is happening?
And I got to give you...
That would also explain why Lucy's missing for the rest of the story.
Right.
Oh, she just disappears. That's right, huh?
Yeah, she's not in the story.
The weird thing I noticed, like...
She pulls a Judy up the stairs. She just gone. No explanation, huh?
Linus is part of this adventure the entire way. Presumably his parents was like, yeah, you could stay with Charlie Brown, no problem. Where the hell is Lucy?
Oh, she's off.
it only fits 12 people around that table, so they had to. She's the perspective of the camera. That's where Lucy is.
Charlie Brown's concussive memory, it just did not account for the person who caused him the trauma. That's what really is happening here.
Okay, and I got to give you a point for the cold open being the football because I'd forgotten about that, and you mentioned it in the first part of this episode. Now I want to move on to the one that is absolutely apeshit.
Oh no! Before we do that, though, I want to ask one question.
Go ahead.
Woodstock eating a turkey akin to cannibalism?
Yes, 100%.
Hang on. Now I hear that, but there was also Steve Burns from Blue's Clues, right?
I don't know.
Yes.
They've asked him. You don't know Blue's Clues?
I don't know Steve Burns. I know what Blue's Clues is. I just don't know the guy.
Steve. It's Steve. It's okay. Well, anyway, so Steve left the show because he didn't want to be a 40-year-old man-child talking to a camera, right? So he moved on and they brought in other characters. It was never as good. But Steve Burns now does conventions. He goes to Comic-Con and stuff like that. And people love him. So they go and they do the photos and things with him. But somebody asked him one time, they were like, hey, do you have a dog? And he's like, no. Or he might have a dog. And they're like, if you had a dog, would you name it Blue? And he goes, why would I? I'm like, because the dog on the show. And he goes, that's not a dog. He's like, that's only like the most basic description of a dog, but it's not a dog. It's a character. It's this, it's that. And he went off on it. It's like, Snoopy is not a dog. Eric with your, oh no, that's Anton with the notes. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to read that aloud, but anyway, so that's the thing is Woodstock a bird? He's very bird-like, but he does a lot of things that are not bird-like. I would argue that, when you're sitting there talking about figments of imagination or unreliable narrator, I don't know. But now you made me think about it, and Woodstock is definitely eating turkey. So maybe, I don't know, who knows?
I mean, and if you go dinosaur with it, right? Like if all dinosaurs are birds now, then dinosaurs eating dinosaurs would still be cannibalism. So as long as Woodstock wasn't a turkey eating a turkey,
right? Isn't it? It's the same. It's the same. It's the same species and genus and everything.
It'd be a little weird, but it's not necessarily the same species eating the same species. What is cannibalism? Let's all eat long pig, delicious, fun time. But no, seriously, you want to talk about something as unhinged as cannibalism, though? Let's jump to the other one.
Yes.
Like that thing, Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown is
so.
Way
I want to say,
I remember it. It's also like an hour and a half long. It's like a Marvel movie,
right?
In comparison to the 25 minutes of the Thanksgiving special. Like, and it's unhinged from beginning to end. It's broken.
Right. For years, I literally decades, I was trying to explain this film to my friends who did not remember it. I was like, no, dude, seriously, this happened. Nobody believed me. So this Costco pack came up and I had to buy it because right there, other side, right there, you can see it's on there. I don't give a shit about these 3 other movies, but this was nowhere and nobody believed me. So I had to buy the disc set and then I showed it to my friends and they were like, that cannot be real. It is so bizarre. So, okay, so here we go. So the Easy Rider thing, Anton called it again. The one thing he remembered from this film was Snoopy with, and I don't know, there's got to be a better name for these, but the only name I know is ape hangers. That's the big, tall. Yeah, so he's on the bike with the ape hangers. He's got a red, white, and blue helmet that looks just like Peter Fonda's.
Yeah.
He's got the scarf, he's got the goggles on, and then there's this funny little thing. So talking about the incompetent adults, Charlie Brown is standing there. They had just stopped to get supplies. Standing there talking to his dog. He's talking so that bus driver 4 feet away can hear him. Shuts the doors, and he's standing there. He goes, hey, wait. He can definitely hear him. And the bus driver takes off and leaves a 10-year-old child at a gas station in the middle of nowhere to set up for him to ride to camp on the back of Snoopy's motorcycle. But
I'm telling you, dude, that's why the vampires and Lost Boys did as good as they did for so long, because nobody cared about children back in the day. Clearly, like you could just, those guys ate well because nobody cared.
I'm going to argue that it's a little beyond incompetence. I think the bus driver genuinely hates that little roundhead kid.
Oh, God.
We had a bus driver like that. My son, okay. The rule here in Bakersfield, California is if you live 2 miles plus away from the school, they have to send a bus to pick you up. 2 miles. Okay. We live 1.996 miles from the bus, or from where the bus would pick up. My eldest kid, used to go down to the bus stop, which is half a block away, and wait there. The bus driver didn't like him, and so she reported him for riding the bus when he lives less than 1/10 of a mile inside the boundary. So he was no longer allowed to go and wait with the other kids to ride the bus to the middle school. Bus drivers are the worst, man. I mean,
Wow.
I don't know if I know anybody who's a bus driver. I apologize if you're watching this and you're my friend and you're a bus driver, but the bus drivers that I have had experience with,
like, yeah, that's pretty riotous, man. I'm sorry that happened. That's on it. Ugh. Also, okay, so quick thought, because again, this is just what I picked up from watching it. I don't know, like, I think I've seen it a couple of times as a kid. Again, I didn't remember much more than the Easy Rider part of it. It feels very military coded. Like, it feels, especially with like Charlie's little, like, his little beanie, it feels very like Army versus Navy. Because like the bad kids, like the alternate universe version of like the Charlie gang,
right, the anti Peanuts gang, yes,
yeah, they have like little sailor hats and like the little blues, and they have the little pontoon boat where the
attention, all rise for PT, attention, right, yeah.
It feels very like military coded, like Army just kind of throwing stuff together, getting it done. Navy has all the fun toys, like that came across pretty strong with all like the bunk houses and everything else they were doing, like,
and the competition between the different bunks.
Like, who said it? Also, like, who the hell sends their kids to camp? And like, again, incompetent adults. We let our children wander away for 4 or 5 days. Like,
there's so many things. There is one adult that you see on camera the entire movie, and that is a hand that comes in and hands them a chow tray. That's it. You don't see the bus driver. You don't see camp counselors. None of that. One of the other things, and actually, I had not even realized this until this watching with my kids, and I was like, oh, dang. The girls on their raft are flying the feminist fist.
Yeah.
And every single decision that they make is mocked. Every single decision they make goes wrong until the guys come and fix it. And it's almost a subtextual thing where they're like, yeah, here's this movement that's going on, but look, girls can't run themselves. They can't do their own stuff. The boys have to come to the rescue. And every one of their demands that they made on the boys was completely off the wall, bonkers, unrealistic. You guys found this house, you built this thing, we're all safe and stuff in here, we're voting, so you guys have to go out in the cold or whatever. It feels like whoever was writing that part of the script or whoever's putting those little digs in was very, very angry about the feminist movement.
Yeah.
Well, because Peppermint Patty,
I didn't notice the fist, so I didn't read it that way. I read it as this more general cynicism towards the notion of democracy itself.
Yes.
Every single one of Patty's votes are rigged.
Yeah.
All of it was rigged. Yeah. That was the bigger thing that definitely for sure stood out, because it feels very weird to see these characters know their children, and I think it's because there's a lack of like jovialness with them and what's happening. But
this was not a very funny movie at any point.
And the cartoon, it's still very cartoonish, right? It still looks like the Peanuts comic strip. It's still very Schultz in its design. But like the through line in the plot is very like Lord of the Flies. Like, it's very kind of dark and survivalistic. Like, you can see this quickly becoming like Yellow Jackets or something. It's it gets into like a really weird liminal survivor space. And it's like, what these are children. Again, why is no one looking for them? Why is this okay?
Well, and who planned the route?
This race 3 days long.
Yeah.
Who planned the route? I want to know who plans a rafting route that has a 40-foot vertical drop that goes past a blasting zone, that goes through a dark tunnel. Who in the world mapped this out and was like, you know what, 10-year-olds can handle this. No problem.
We're going to send them to a log mill. It'll be okay. Nobody cares. There's bears.
Oh, that's right. There is a log mill. You're right.
There's a mill. Like, it's really... And then like, and I mean, I love, we'll bury the ending because, you know, you guys have to go watch this because it's a ton of fun. Find it.
If you haven't seen this film, seriously, it's available. If you don't have Apple Plus, there is a certain on-demand video playing service that has been around for a while that you can like click on a playlist and it does like 30 seconds at a time, but it's a list. So it'll go from section to section to section to section. I'm not going to call it out because I don't want it to get shut down, but you can find it online to watch. This is the most bonkers film you will ever see. Like, it is just, nothing makes sense and everything is the absolute worst. I want to mention too, I didn't remember that there was a cryptid in this film. Anton, did you catch that?
I did not catch the cryptid. Where was there a cryptid?
They kept talking about the rock snake that was going to come and get them if they were sleeping outside, or if they were.
There's really a rock snake. So I thought that's not a cryptid. That's a.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, that's a real thing. Rock snakes are real things, dude.
No, I don't believe you.
Okay.
Oh, it heard me say real, so it looked a real snake. No, that's not it.
Well, also it's Patty who introduces the whole notion of the rock snake, right? So,
Okay, she's
right,
we've
but she
already
says it in
established
such.
that she's full of shit in this movie.
She
so-
says it in such a fantastical way, though. I didn't even realize that. I guess they do call some snakes rock snakes, so I'll
Yeah,
give you that. But
it's like water
I
moccasins,
believe
copperheads.
I,
Yeah.
I believe that in this context they were making up a mythical because of the way they were talking about it.
I think more.
So yeah.
I spent a lot of time camping when I was younger and worked at a Boy Scout camp. So for me, somebody says a rock snake, I'm like, oh, all right. I
Look
know
at you pulling rank on me because you were a camp counselor. Get
I'm
out of
just
here.
saying I was. But what we didn't have was a dog that completely cold cocked some sort of psychotic cat, so a little bird creature could win a race. Like, I mean, because that was delightful. That is one of my favorite parts. Snoopy just like ham fists it and knocks that cat out.
Well, he had had enough. He'd
Yeah.
had enough. You know that old axiom is like, beware the wrath of a patient man. There it is. Snoopy he takes it and he takes it and he takes it, and then he can't take it no more. He punches him straight in the face.
It's done.
Oh,
I was done with all of those children by the end of that, though. Like, it felt too long. And if that had commercials in it, because like I feel like that's something you put on the Hallmark Channel or like something that would have aired on like an ABC nightly or something. That was way too long. Like if I was a kid trying to watch that, I'm an adult with ADHD. I'm not gonna watch that shit. Like, way too long.
You also have to remember though that there was a long time before Mr. Rogers came around, before like that adults didn't really care what kids were into. They were just trying to keep them busy.
That's
And
fair.
so Mr. Rogers was one of the first guys that came around that was actually talking to kids as if they were little humans and not little like dumb, that you could just like trick with anything to do what you wanted for an hour or 2 hours or whatever. So there's a lot of children's programming. Go back and look at Lord of the Rings, the original, or The Hobbit, the original.
Gosh, you
Like, what the hell is that? The animation's terrible, the music's terrible, the acting's terrible, like everything's terrible. And they're like, oh, just watch this. And it's like, this is garbage, man.
There's some really good moments in that. I think so. I haven't seen that one in long enough. I'm voting right now on camera that at some point in this series where we talk about something and we go back and watch it, we definitely need to do that one. Because there's
it's like 4 hours long too, dude. Don't do that to me.
It's 90 minutes.
It's like it's like an hour and a half, dude.
Well,
it feels like 4 hours,
minutes, but
yeah, it's maybe an hour and a half because I had it on Laserdisc. So because I never had a Laserdisc player, but I had I had watching Lord of the Rings, had Flash Gordon, and I had the first Star Wars. I had Star Wars: A New Hope. So
but you had no player.
No player, but I got all three of them. Somebody had them at a rummage sale, and they were like $1 a piece. And they look like albums. They were in these cool like giant hard frames with the art on it. Oh, I had Legend. I had 4 of them. I had Legend as well because it had the big demon, like the innocence. Dude, those things were rad, man. But never had a player.
It's over 100 minutes.
It is.
Yes.
See, we didn't remember that. This is why it's an episode. It's perfect.
That's crazy.
So we'll do one.
It looks like there's several cuts of it, but the one that I remember watching is definitely like 2.5 hours on TV with all the commercials.
Like that and Wizards could be really good together because Wizards is another really good one in this sort of vein of like old school animation that was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
I wanted to talk about the inconsistent animation again too. So that always bothered me, like always, ever since I was little, because I would just notice shit. So one of the things about this one is like the water bread goes from the left of the room to the right of the room to the left of the room to the right of the room back to the left of the room, and it's like, come on, guys, pick a side.
The animators didn't care, like you said. I think it was just distracting little kids with car keys. But yeah, look, it's sparkly, it dangles. God,
although at the same time, there's nothing I think I've seen that's sadder in one of these Charlie Brown things than despondent Snoopy.
Yes,
like when he's eating the cereal alone, I'm like, oh my god, this is so raw.
It's very shell shocky. It feels very like military war coded. It has that vibe.
So my middle son, he's 10 now, but when he was born, because we're from Santa Rosa, and that's where Charles Schultz, they gave us all kinds of Snoopy stuff. He's still got the little stuffed Snoopy that is from his baby shower.
Nice.
And so we're watching the film and he's sitting there with Snoopy. And during that part, I swear to God, he turned Snoopy toward him and started stroking his head. Like, it's okay, little guy. Like, it was the cutest thing ever.
That's adorable.
Wow.
Nice.
All
Okay.
right, well,
so
Go ahead.
Can we agree that this is like the most bonkers thing ever? And like when people look back on these specials or whatever,
it is
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Because like my vivid memory of Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, is that it's a story. Like it's not just this weird detached segments of stuff that are all vaguely related to each other. Like it flows, and this is like, well, once we get to the race, we're in this different set of circumstances that are utterly bizarre.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that's super 70s about it too, super like when did this one come out? Shoot, I forget.
This was 77.
77.
Okay. So yeah, I was about to say early 80s, whatever. Like all of these films that were made for kids or whatever also ended on a high note. So all of a sudden, the kids that got concussions running into the boat dock are fine. Everybody's fine. They're all happy. They're shaking hands and stuff. And it's like, all right, better luck next year. And it's like, wait, we're doing this again? Like, you tried to kill me. And now we're cool. But yeah, we're going to come back and you're going to try to kill me again next year. Awesome. Let's do it.
That's how we do.
Nice. Cool. All right. So that was...
one last thing I want to say before we go out is
yes, sir.
Something that did strike a memory for me watching it was Linus using his blanket as like a lion tamer's whip.
Yeah.
Like I had forgotten that. And then when it starts like, oh, this is absolutely the thing I held on to from this movie. Because that's a runner that out of the group, he's the kind of
there's got to be there's got to be a device there, and I can't think of the name of it, where, you know, Snoopy can't face his own demon, which is the evil cat that's the opposite world version of him or whatever. You know, can't face it. He's got other people fighting his battles until the end. He's like, nope, mine, bam. So like there's that growth with Snoopy's character, whatever, and Linus was the hero, you know, up until that point where the real hero, the real protagonist of the film or whatever, comes out of his shell and realizes that he's got to do what he's got to do or whatever. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I also love that Brutus has a theme song too. Like it's the anti-peanut song when he's walking in. Like that's the greatest thing. I'm like, yes, yeah, cool. All right, so this has been Happy Hour, Good Grief episode special something number 1. I think we're gonna do more of these though.
So. Oh, we 100% are doing more of this. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is happening. Viewers and listeners, we will be back with new offerings for you that we don't remember and talk about how fucking weird some of this stuff is. It's gonna be a blast.
There we go. Thank you very much. We'll see. Oh, sorry. We should do the outro. So I'm Brendan Allen. That's Erik Amaya. And down below, we've got Anton Kromoff. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.